Okay, we can now move on to resolution number 6.
Mayor, the board has before it some language that was modified today. Director Wright had asked that the resolution definitely not apply to a particular development across the street because it was already pretty much underway. I had changed some language. The attorney for the developer did not feel that he was protected, so he and I spoke today and modified the language, which is what you should have before you.
We don't have anything.
I gave it back to you.
Okay, well, it's being passed out now.
Huh?
I
What would I do with it? That's why I said pass it, hand it to me.
No. I sent it to you electronically today.
I know, it's linked.
Okay. But they don't have it.
No.
Okay. It was linked, but y'all don't have it. And to make it even more clear, there's only 9 of those copies, so
Can you click on the link?
I'll share.
if you'll click on the link.
Would you address, Tom, the particular language that you've added?
I will, Mayor. That's what I was going to do. Before I do that, I want you to look at line 29 on the first page. That's not the resolution. Okay.
Oh, I formatted it, so it.
Go ahead, Mr. Carpenter. What are we doing?
On this line 27, the third word in is a not. That is not, that needs to be marked out. The change was the proviso, which starts on line 25. Provided this moratorium does not apply to any multifamily development for which zoning has been approved and the developer has materially changed circumstances prior to the effective date of this resolution, or are damaged after the date of this resolution and the repair of such damages necessitates appropriate building permits. That is designed to do 2 things: not to apply to the development across the street, and it's also to make sure that if there is damage by fire or wind or anything else to an existing facility and the damages are significant and they have to get building permits and so forth, that they are not covered by this moratorium.
Okay. All right. So the word is to be stricken. The word not is to be stricken in line 27. Thank you, Mr. Carter, for highlighting that. Director Fortson, yes, you have a question, please?
Well, Mr. Mayor, the copy that was distributed I have in front of me, the word not is not even on line 27.
No, it's on line 29 in yours, and it's on line 29 in mine. I didn't realize it had been reformatted since.
Okay, it's on line 29 in the
Okay.
printed version and on line 27 in the version on our screens.
And this is my fault because I didn't send it down in the right format.
Okay. Is there any other?
Again, does this moratorium is not
It does not include
anything that's in the pipeline?
the development across the street, which is all that we know that's in the pipeline, or anything that's damaged. It would include the Brody Creek Point, I think is the name of it.
Pending.
That's pending, because the zoning has not been approved for that.
It's Herrick Heights, I think, is the actual name.
Okay.
Director Kazort, you're recognized, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And as I said last week, I'm not in any substance necessarily opposed to the concept of a moratorium. I am opposed to the current language, in that I don't think we've ever had a moratorium before, that we've cut somebody off in the process of while they're in the pipeline. I understand he hadn't got zoning approval yet, and he may well not get zoning approval, but and Tom and I will agree that he has no right to it, but I do think he has a right to this board saying yay or nay. I can't support it as long as it says that. I would offer an amendment to this resolution that would also have it not apply to any applicant who has already filed the necessary paperwork as of the time this resolution passed, and I'll let Tom figure out the exact language. In other words, it will not apply to anything that's currently in the applications have been filed and the things in the pipeline for approval.
Is there a second to that amendment? There's a second. Okay, any discussion on the amendment? Director Wyrick, you're recognized, please.
Okay, I haven't seen the application. The only map I have or the profile I have of this is in the traffic study that was given to us. And are there several phases to this? And the application that's before us, is it for a singular phase or is it for the 3 phases it looks like that are in this one development?
Mr. Moore, I believe it's for just one single phase, but do you want to elaborate on that?
Mr. Brzezinski, I think it's
Right, it's about the one that's been through the Planning Commission. Well, there's an amendment that would affect that. So yes, go ahead.
Director Wyrick, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the board, the application that's being discussed is for a site of 70 acres.
Okay.
There's different elements to the mixed-use plan. A portion of it is for the multifamily development. Another area set aside for either single-family or a residential development not to exceed 6 units per acre. And then the tract that fronts on Bowman Road is either for O1 uses or, again, potentially residential uses not to exceed 6 units per acre.
And that's all in the application that's in the pipeline
Right.
now?
For the entire 70 acres is part of the application.
Okay. See, the reason I wanted to know that is because if that's going to be, if it's in the pipeline, it's going to exclude the whole development. I wanted to know that. Thank you. Thank you, Director Hines, Vice Mayor Hines.
Mr. Brzezinski, 1 minute, please. Yeah. So that 70 acres is the and the uses were all through the Planning Commission. Is that correct?
Yes, it's
Okay.
one
And to the
unified.
board for the ordinance that's on our agenda next week.
Right.
Okay. Director Wright, you're recognized, please.
Mr. Carpenter was about to say something.
I was just trying to say, to accomplish the amendment by Director Kazort, I think you would now look at the proviso, provided this moratorium does not apply to any multifamily development which has been approved by the Planning Commission prior to the effective date of this resolution, comma, or is damaged, and so forth.
All right. I think everybody understands what the amendment is. Okay. Go ahead, Director Wright.
Thank you. Director Kazort, my constituents are concerned about what's getting ready to go in and with what's under construction. So I would prefer that the moratorium not be amended, but it's up to the will of the board. I understand your concerns and I respect those. However, I have to respect what my constituents are telling me, that they would like to see us study this thing before we approve any additional multifamily.
All right. Director Fortson, you're recognized, please.
Well, part of my question, Mayor, has been answered, but I have another question. That it takes 6 votes to pass this resolution. It takes 6 votes to approve or disapprove the application that is pending and will be heard at some point in time, right? I've had the same concerns Director Kazort has, and that is that most of my communications from people have been in opposition to what they refer to as the Richardson development, and this moratorium is far broader than that, and I think that the proper approach would be to take a look at that pending application and rather deal with that with a laser-like approach rather than such a broad brush. My only concern about moratoriums is they are much further reaching than just the Richardson application, and they deal with providing, I suppose, anybody else in the apartment business along that corridor with a monopoly, which is neither here nor there from that standpoint. But the other part of it is there are traffic considerations and a lot of things that I think need to be considered in the long run on Bowman Road. But I think in the process of agreeing to consider that, we are considering the Richardson application without really considering it. And I'm not too sure changing the rules in the middle of the game is exactly fair. I think it deserves to be considered and voted up or down based on its own merits.
All right. Well, we're speaking on the amendment, which is to take
Right.
that application out of the process, out of the coverage of this particular resolution. Director Richardson, you're recognized, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Point of clarification, I have no investment in this development, nor am I related to Mr. Richardson. So before someone asks Tom to issue an opinion on whether or not I can talk about this issue tonight, I do have a brother named Keith Richardson, but it's not this Keith Richardson. If it was, I certainly wouldn't be a public servant. I'd be sitting in Jamaica somewhere. I'm not related to this gentleman. I have no investment, none whatsoever, in this development, Tom. So I want to make that point of clarification for this whole discussion tonight.
Director Campuris, you're recognized, please.
Well, I agree with both Gene and the maker of and Brad. I think it is a dangerous precedent to have something come along, be past some point where it started, and then bring this in at this point in time, because I can see every time we have something that's controversial, someone coming up and saying, I want to look at a traffic study again. And I don't think that is a fair way of doing it. I'm for your moratorium. I think it's a fine thing to do. I think that area needs to be studied. But I think fairness has to play a hand in this. And I'm sorry, Doris, I just think that studying the area, I'll vote for that. And if the amendment passes, I will be glad to move forward with that period of time. But I don't think, in fairness and also for what we're going to do in the future, that if this comes up every time as a maneuver to stop something, we're going to be in real trouble.
Okay, Director Wright, you're recognized, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Campuris, I respect, of course, your opinion. However, please remember and recall that Mr. Richardson pulled his application voluntarily. If he had not done so, it would have already been voted on by now. He did that. So just keep that in mind. We would have voted on his application by now. So I don't think that this is out of a sequential order that we would normally take. I mean, that was his decision. But regardless, we can vote it up or down, and we can call the question.
Vice Mayor Hines, you're recognized, please.
Director Wright, I'd like to remind you the reason he asked for a deferral was to try to gain consensus with the neighborhood, which is what we ask all of our developers to do, to meet with the neighborhoods, the neighbors, work with them to find out a plan that will be mutually acceptable by both parties. That's why he delayed, and then we have a tactic to place a moratorium that kills his up or down vote in the process before he's had time to, and I think he's still got ongoing communications with this neighborhood to try to work out some resolution with the traffic and everything under his application.
I'm aware of that. I'll call the question.
Director Adcock.
I think Director Wright has called the question.
What?
She's called the question.
Well, I didn't hear a second, so you had your light on, so I'm calling on you. If you want to speak.
Tony, Mr. Moore, tell us about the meetings that Mr. Richardson has had with the neighborhood since we deferred it.
Well, we're simply on the amendment now. We're simply on the amendment.
Not on the merits of
So
the application.
let's see whether this amendment is added or not. The amendment is to exempt from this ordinance, and Tom read the language, I think, very accurately, to exempt from this resolution, rather, any developments that have been through the Planning Commission.
Do you have any cards on this, Mayor?
I got several cards, and we'll call on those once we find out whether this amendment passes or not.
I'd rather do the cards first before the amendment.
No, they don't know what they're speaking on.
We don't know
I
what
think
they're
the people
speaking.
always know what they're speaking on, Director Gazort.
Okay. Okay, we've had an amendment made. It's been seconded. We've had discussion. All in favor of the amendment indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
No.
Let's go ahead and call the roll on this.
You're voting on the amendment.
Speak the amendment.
On the amendment.
And that's the amendment that was made by Brad?
Yes.
Okay.
Director Hendricks.
Present.
Director Richardson.
Yes.
Director Webb.
No.
Director Kazort.
Yes.
Director White.
No.
Director Wyrick.
No.
Director Campuris.
Aye.
Director Fortson.
Aye.
Director Adcock.
No.
Vice Mayor Hines.
Yes.
Mayor?
Director Hendricks, would you like to change your vote?
Yes.
What do you want to change it to?
Yes, yes. It's aye.
Okay.
By a vote of 6-4, the amendment has passed. So we now have a resolution requesting moratorium as amended. And I have several cards who wish to speak, or may still wish to speak. Clark Cogbill, let me call on you first.
Well, thank you, City Board, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Moore. Thank you for your time. And first of all, I just want to open by saying thanks for the service that you provide to our city. I know you get a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls on various items, and I appreciate personally what you do for our fine city. I am a resident of the Woodlands Edge neighborhood, and I think sometimes we have a habit of thinking of things very selfishly or personally, and I've tried to take a step back and look at this from a bigger picture perspective. I drive on Bowman Road daily to and from work, and I'm sure many of you do as well. If you do, you know that it really is, for the most part, a two-lane country road. I do love to see development in this city, my home. I do have a concern about the planning that has gone into the development and the traffic that comes along with that. So we have a large apartment complex that has recently been opened up, the Point at Brody Creek. There's one under construction with hundreds of units right across the street from it, as I know you're aware, and there's one further south on Bowman near Colonel Glenn, which is going to have hundreds of units. And then there's now a new proposed complex right next to Brody Creek. I think I speak for many of us who are concerned about traffic. I think about safety vehicles and their ability to get in and out of our neighborhood. I don't know what the impact will be, but I know that traffic already backs up on northbound Bowman, beginning at the intersection of Canis and Bowman today during certain periods of the day. A city engineer shared a traffic study with me, and I'm not a city engineer, I'm not an engineer, but it seemed to indicate that there was already a significant amount of traffic on Bowman today. So I have some concerns there, and I also have concerns about maybe generating cut-through traffic through the neighborhood, and that's certainly legal and okay, but it diminishes a neighborhood. And I personally feel that Woodlands Edge and Brody Creek are, great neighborhoods, not because they are nice in terms of affluency, but it's one of the better neighborhoods in our city, I feel like, just because of the feeling of community. And I think many of us are just concerned about the future of that, and that one more apartment complex could be a tipping point for the quality of the neighborhood and the people who love to live there. So that is all I have to share today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cogbill. The next card I have is from either William or Terry Phillips. William?
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for allowing me the time to speak before you. I moved to Little Rock in 2006. I'm not from the city, but I've grown to love the city. I moved here specifically because of the feeling and everything that happens here. But I'm from Atlanta. And as I'm sure you all know, Atlanta is ripe with traffic. I currently live in the St. Charles neighborhood. And we have several multifamily apartment communities around our neighborhood. And my street, which is St. Charles, has become one of those cut-through streets, as you've just heard mentioned. I've seen what poor planning can do to traffic areas. It's one of the things that forced me from my home that I grew up in that I loved, and there in Atlanta. I really would strongly encourage you to take a careful look at what this multifamily community could do to the quality of our residents, not just those who are living on Bowman, but those of us who are around there. And I really think it'll have a negative effect on our property values and the quality of life for those of us who have chosen to live here. And I again refer back to Atlanta, ladies and gentlemen. Poor planning has caused a traffic nightmare, and good people like me who grew up in the city have been forced to move away. I love Little Rock, and I want to see it continue to grow, but with careful planning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Jamie Shipley is next, please.
Hi. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I have to say that I'm incredibly disappointed in the previous vote. I'm not sure what good a moratorium will do for our neighborhood if this development is allowed to continue first. The problem that we have is traffic. We have two apartments, as already said, or two complexes, as already mentioned, that are already under development that are not yet open, that will add hundreds of cars on Bowman every day. It's already difficult to make a left-hand turn out of Brody Creek. The Woodlands Edge people use Brody Creek to exit. You can't make a left-hand turn at certain times of the day. If you come off of Executive to get back into the neighborhood, it's also very difficult. As I understand, there are no plans for traffic lights at Bowman and Executive. There's not really a plan for what to do for us to get out of our neighborhood, either onto Bowman or onto Canis. It's also very difficult to make a left-hand turn there. And at certain times of the day, very difficult to make a right-hand turn. So we live in a neighborhood where we're going to be bound within our neighborhood. I watched a school bus this afternoon try and take a left-hand turn out of Brody Creek onto Bowman. Think about that. It happens every day. It happens multiple times a day. It's a two-lane road. There are no shoulders. There are ditches. At one point, there's a bridge. If there's a traffic accident, nobody moves. You just sit there. There's already a rehabilitation center and a nursing home that need ambulance services. It's very difficult. And I think there's this perception that we're against apartments. We're not against apartments. I've said this multiple times. We're against the density of apartments on one stretch of road that simply can't handle the traffic. There were several phrases that I heard tonight that I wanted to just mention. Urban planning, that's what we're asking for, and you can't urban plan if you don't stop and think about what you're doing. The old way isn't working, so let's try something new. Instead of saying yes or no willy-nilly as projects come up, let's talk about what we want Little Rock to be. Let's talk about what Atlanta was and what we don't want Little Rock to become. A comprehensive planning strategy is all that we're asking for. And then the gentleman who retired after 30 years of service said something that I thought was really important. Managers do things right. Leaders do right things. And all that we had asked was to take the time to do the right thing, to look at how that neighborhood, that stretch of road was being utilized, and to give some thought and consideration to the people who already live there. Thank you very much.
Let's keep our decorum, please. I know people feel passionately about this, but I'd ask you not to be applauding after every speaker. David Shipley, please.
First of all, I want to say thank you all for the opportunity to speak. Jamie's my better half.
Yeah, pull the mic.
Oh, pull it up. Okay, I'm sorry. Jamie's my better half. I'm the lucky half in this pair. We're a young family. We have young kids. We're here to ask the city to really think about large apartment complexes, South Bowman, not just Woodlands Edge, not just Brody Creek, but also Sandpiper, Cherry Creek. There's a lot of good neighborhoods of all price points in that area that use Bowman. Traffic is increasing on Bowman every day. We looked for a car this weekend. Every car lot down on Colonel Glenn told us, drive up Bowman, you'll test your new car out on the curvy roads in the hills where there are no ditches, there are hills, bad roads. So there's a real traffic thing. Where is our fire station? We're going to have this concentration of apartments being built next to our neighborhood. Where's the things that protect us? How can we get out of our neighborhood? Let's all work together and think about what's best for Little Rock. Let's look at ways to integrate apartments, not big complexes, but smaller complexes, into neighborhoods that protect property values. So we have a big investment in our homes. And what happens with big complexes is that over time, they rot, they deteriorate, they drag down the areas that are around them. I used to live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You can go within a mile of Southern Hills Country Club along the Arkansas River, where there's a great river trail system, and see apartments that were built in the 80s, 90s that are now all Section 8, that are all empty because of the crime and the things that came in with that concentration of apartments. That's what we're against. We want to build a community. You know, we choose to live in Little Rock because we like Little Rock, but this is the kind of stuff that makes you think about that. So I urge you all to think about the moratorium. Let's all work together as a community, develop a plan for South Bowman that involves everybody, and let's make the process transparent so we can all be a part of it and not feel like we're being given a short staff. So thank you all very much.
Director Adcock, did you have a question?
Yes,
for
I
this?
do.
Mr. Shipley?
Do you understand the amendment they've put on the moratorium?
Yes, I feel like I do.
Do you still want us to vote for it?
I would like to see the moratorium approved. If not, then maybe kick this back to the Planning Commission. We can all have a chance to really address it, because one of the issues in this has been the process. We as a neighborhood, or as neighbors, didn't find out about it until the day before.
But with this moratorium, Mr. Richardson could go ahead with his apartments.
No, he's got to come get our.
Well, you still have a zoning issue. I mean,
The property currently is zoned single-family residence. The moratorium,
He'll have to come before us to get approved.
yeah.
I was going to mention to all of you, I mean, it sounds like
We're not familiar with how the city,
Well-
this is all new to us, so excuse us for our
for those
lack
of
of
you who
experience.
are against apartments or against this apartment project, this will come up before the board at the first meeting in March. And so I think the question that Director Adcock wants to ask, or has asked, is that, anything that was in the pipeline is now accepted out of it. Do you still feel a moratorium in the broader context is appropriate for the general area? And I think that's the nature of her question. I'm going to ask him first.
Yes. I mean, I feel like for the democratic process, let's step back. I wish it was not being amended the way it has been, but let's really look at what's going on in South Bowman. Let's do what's right for Little Rock, what's right for our neighborhoods. And that's our neighborhood, that's Brody Creek, that's Sandpiper, that's Cherry Creek. Let's build a better Little Rock and think about where this will be in 10, 15, 20 years from now.
Okay, thank you.
Director Wright, did you want to
Yes.
make a comment, please?
I would like to respond to Director Adcock, and I would like to let let the audience know that the moratorium in Section 2 states as follows: says during the period of this moratorium, the city manager is to direct his staff to study the area covered by this moratorium and prepare a report for the Board of Directors as to whether any multifamily development in this area is appropriate in light of the following information: traffic patterns in this area and including the neighborhoods of Brody Creek, Sandpiper Creek, Cherry Creek, and Woodlands Edge; drainage issues in the areas noted in subsection A, which is the ones I just mentioned; cut-through traffic in the neighborhoods noted in subsection A during peak traffic times of a given day, an estimate of costs associated with the impacts discovered during this study, and a listing of the steps that would have to be taken to mitigate these impacts, and a recommendation of proposed land use amendments in this area that would be required to preclude future multifamily development if appropriate. So there are other benefits that we can get out of this moratorium. So if we pass this tonight, then the board will have real concrete information, because these units that are under construction will come online. And then staff will be studying the traffic patterns, the amount of traffic, the stacking effect, what improvements are needed. And then when we have our meetings in the community for funding, then we can put forward a plan for Bowman that would allow us to address the major intersections and so forth. So if we pass this, we will have some real data. Okay.
Director Fortson, you're recognized, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Director Wright probably made the point I was going to make. I was going to ask Tom just to make sure we clarify things. If this moratorium passes tonight, on March the 1st, on our agenda is the application for the Herrick, I believe it's called, apartment complex. Is that correct?
Yes.
On that night, there will be a vote either to approve it or disapprove it, or should be unless something else happens. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So, but after that night, the moratorium would then be in effect for the balance of the 12-month period, assuming it's passed
After tonight, if the moratorium passes, it would be in effect. It would not stop that particular development.
And so if the moratorium is passed tonight and that development is defeated, then we will go for 12 months with the moratorium in effect, and that development's out of the question. If we pass the moratorium tonight and that development is approved, then that development will go forward, but nothing else can happen for 12 months until all the conditions Director Wright outlined are fulfilled.
That's correct.
And reported back. It seemed like there was some confusion, and my point all along was I think in fairness, we need to vote that application up or down on its own merits so it goes away or is approved. Otherwise, it would be hanging there for 12 months and could be brought up at the end of the 12 months. Is that not correct?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Ann Brown Marshall, please.
Thank goodness for that new diet. Well, I'm not going to say what I was going to say, but I do want to say good evening to all of you, and thank you so much for hanging in with us. There's so much that we want to say, and so much of it has already been said very well, but I am Ann Brown Marshall. I lived down in the central part of the city for most of my life. Only recently moved to Brody Creek because that's where our two adorable grandchildren were, and it was time to be Grandmommy and Poppy to them. Thank you, Director White, for your wisdom and for your courage in having brought this potential moratorium forward. Many of you know that I worked many years monitoring the desegregation case. And then after I retired from that field, I worked for the Arkansas School Boards Association to try to help school districts all across the state, and particularly in places like Helena, West Helena, where their problems were almost insurmountable. So there's so much that is a microcosm here in this appeal that we bring to you to stop and think and not do ready, fire, aim. We've got to stop and aim before we explode more people into the situation that we have on Bowman and Canis. In the last very short period of time, we have had a population explosion, some 4,000 apartments in our area, and if that's only 1.5 people per apartment, that's 6,000 people. That's a pretty good-sized town for most of Arkansas. And you've heard an awful lot about the traffic, and it is the truth. And having spent my summers and some of my youth in Southern California, I know all about traffic. I know how to drive on the freeway, but I don't know how to get out on Bowman during peak times. every single one of you are so dedicated to what our city is all about. But it can never be just about one piece of the city. It has to be about all of us. We're all in this together. I've written to most of you recently, just stating the obvious, and that when one domino falls, so does another. There are always consequences, and so many of them unforeseen because we didn't take the time to do our homework. That's what we're asking for. That's what you, Doris, have been brave enough to propose. And so many of you are, I can tell, very seriously considering. Please do. This is our shared future. This is making decisions about apartments that will affect all of us for a very long time because it's our city. I know you care. Thank you so much for listening. We trust you to do the right thing.
Thank you, Mrs. Marshall. The next card I have is from Casey Covington.
Mayor and Board of Directors, I know many of you, I'm a professional engineer and a planner, and I've sent you several comments regarding this development. I'm a 12-year resident of Little Rock. I'm a 10-year resident of the Cherry Creek subdivision. I'm not going to go on. You've heard the concerns about traffic, about the concentration of apartments. I don't feel the need to rehash that with you and waste your time. I do want to, however, say that as residents of this area, I feel like we owe the opportunity to work with the city on a development plan for our area. And that moratorium that's before you is going to allow that to happen. And so that's all we're asking for. We're asking for an opportunity to take the next 12 months and develop a plan for this area of Central West Little Rock. West Central Little Rock. I would like to say to Director Adcock that while I know some of us probably were disappointed in the vote earlier regarding the amendment, I'm fully supportive of this resolution with that amendment, and it is a positive for our development. I would ask for you that the development that has been in question will become up for an up and down vote. We need an up and down vote on that. We don't need to continue to allow that to continue. So I'd ask for you to vote on that next week. I'm going to do something, I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but there's a lot of people here that are for the moratorium. Can everybody stand up that's for the moratorium? Thank you. We all deserve a chance to develop a plan for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Covington. Next card I have is from Sebastian Montez.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, thank you so much for your time and attention. I'm not going to rehash many of the arguments that have already been said tonight, many of which were mine as well. I would like to join my friend from Atlanta, because I used to live in Jersey City. And I like to joke with people, if you don't like Little Rock, go live in Jersey City for 6 weeks, and you're going to learn to love Little Rock. So I've lived in Woodlands Edge for the last couple of years, and I got to say, coming from Jersey City, it is a huge change and a very positive change. So what I'm afraid of, though, is because I've seen the effects of poor planning in Jersey City and other cities. I was in the military for several years, that I would like to do anything and everything that I can to stop this robust building and construction on Bowman Road and Canis, both of roads which affect greatly of many, many neighborhoods in that intersection. Just in the last 12 months, at least 3 different apartments have broken ground on Bowman and on Canis, bringing in hundreds of apartments and thousands of residents, and it's just a matter of time before that happens. So I would just like to, without question, ask that you please approve the moratorium, even with the disappointing amendment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Montez. The next card I have is from Ruth Bell. Well, Ruth, I shuffle these cards. You shouldn't feel bad that you're
shuffling me out of it, man.
Oh, I don't know. I still got a card after you, so don't feel left out.
Okay. As you well know, I'm Ruth Bell, and I usually and am tonight representing the League of Women Voters. We support passage of the proposed moratorium because it will give time for City Board and staff to address the citizen concerns you've heard from tonight. Over the years, the city has struggled to match roadway needs in developing areas with the amount of traffic, the present and future traffic, that the roads must carry. Determining how to site the various categories of residential uses so as to accommodate an urban population and provide an enjoyable quality of life to our residents is a concern of ours and of yours too, I am sure. We hope that at the end of the moratorium, the city will have made progress in planning for increased traffic and developed guidelines for siting multifamily projects in this predominantly single-family area. We do hope you will pass the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. The next card and the final card I have is from Jane Evans.
Hi there. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you. Little Rock has been my home since '86, and I moved here with 2 small children by myself. And a home is, I talked to all of y'all, I think, just about. And I spoke to someone last night, and she'll know exactly who she is. She talked about what a home is and what it means to us. And so, therefore, our home, yes, we look at our property value. I'm a retired real estate agent, and I do that. But we also go home, and people have something called quiet enjoyment at their homes. And that means you don't get my neighbors don't bother me. I don't bother my neighbors. But apartments, a lot of them have people that are only going to live there for a shorter time. Somebody said, you don't like them? I said, no, there's a time and a place for them. But have them so congested in one area. So I think that Little Rock has the opportunity to be a model for the rest of the city so that when you come in and you're starting trying to figure out what to do, that yes, studies need to be done so that we don't just continue. If someone wants to build something in my neighborhood, I can't do just anything I want to do because we have a POA and they're kind of supposed to have a governing board and everything. And that's kind of the way I look at y'all. You kind of help us know that we don't have too many things out there that intrude upon other people's quiet and enjoyment. And also there were 2 wrecks on Bowman Road this past weekend, which that could have been a statistic. That's someone's child. That's someone's parent. And let's see. I'm not a good speaker. I apologize for that. Let's see. The model, that's one of the main things. And I just don't, the water runoff, all those things need to be studied. We don't know enough about going in there and just leveling the land and getting rid of the trees and everything. So much can happen. And I really am concerned about Little Rock. So thank you for considering this. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Evans. Thanks to all of you who have offered your comments to us. I know all of the board members take those very seriously. Director Wyrick, Director Wright. Director Wright.
Before we vote, I just want to thank all of you for giving this some really serious thought. I can tell that you did, and I appreciate that. And I'm hopeful that it will pass, and that will give us some time to study the area and develop a plan. And hopefully you all will recall all of the angst over this when we get to looking at funding, because I know there are some citywide funds, and I know we don't have a lot, but this corridor definitely needs some attention. And I know the funds are pulled 100 different ways, but I am going to be asking for some citywide dollars, not just the allocation that goes towards 6, even though some of that money I would be willing to put that towards this. Thank you all, and we have one more shot at this in March. So stay engaged, and I would like to attend the meeting on the 23rd of February where you all will be talking about meeting with the developer, as I've been told that there will be a meeting, and I'd like to attend that wherever it may be. Okay. That's all I have.
Well, you raised the issue of the meeting. I see Mr. Richardson in the audience. Is that February 23rd? An accurate time and date? What time? What time? 6 o'clock. 6 p.m. on the 23rd.
We haven't heard this.
Where?
Verdi Creek. Haven't heard this.
The Property Owners Association or whoever's running that has been the person who's been contacted. So let's make sure we get the word out, everybody. I want to make sure everybody has a chance to engage. Director Kazort, you're recognized, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Just again reiterate that we have not approved any development here tonight. And given that I think the resolution has been read, I would now move for the passage and adoption of the resolution.
As amended.
As amended. Thank you.
All right, Vice Mayor Hines wished to speak. Do you want to cut him off?
Oh,
He's already done and it's been seconded.
yeah, I've never cut him off before, so let me cut him off this time.
Now, there's a motion and a second to call the question. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, saying nay. All right, the question's been called.
Mayor, the motion was to adopt the resolution.
Oh, excuse me. I
amended.
thought you were calling. Well, I thought you were calling the question first.
Well, I made the motion to adopt the resolution. That was second.
Okay, excuse me. Okay, all in favor of the passage of the resolution indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay. Roll call.
All right, we've been requested for a roll call. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read the roll.
Director Hendricks? Director Richardson? Director Webb?
Yes.
Director Kazort?
Yes.
Director Wright?
Yes.
Director Wyrick? Director Campiris? Director Fortson? Director Adcock? Vice Mayor Hines? Director Hendricks, would you like to change your vote?
By a vote of 7 to 2 to 1 present, the resolution is passed. Is that correct?
Yes.
Oh, you voted yes?
Yeah, the vote is 8 to
Okay,
2.
Director, are you changing your vote, Director Hendricks?
No.
If you turn your microphone on, please.
Can't hear you.
If you turn your microphone on, please. All right. I thought you voted present to begin with. Is that incorrect?
Yeah.
All right. And how do you wish to vote? Do you wish to change your vote?
Yes.
To what?
Yes.
To yes. Okay. By a vote of 8 to 2, the resolution has passed. Thank you.